Hey guys, welcome in. It's another edition, the Monday edition of the Happy Hour Tip-Off Show. College basketball like you've never seen it before with, you know, the man to my right or to the left. I don't have no idea how you're looking at this right now. Bottom line, Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com, at CalSportsLV on Twitter is where you can reach him. And Ralph, what are we, 5-6 days here into the college basketball season? And damn, it's been pretty fun already, has it not?
It is. You know, it was the right way to start the season off with a bang on Tuesday with all the games and AP 1, 2, 3, and 4 playing. So, you know, that, and let's add the ACC schedule. We joked about it. Half of the ACC coaches were thrilled to play these early conference games, those that have the W in the standings. The other half, not so thrilled. So we'll see what comes of that.
Now, let's go. Now, we always, try to do a little T&A to start the show, get it going. Of course, that's Trends and Angles, and nobody does that better than Ralph, and I hope you guys are tailing him on Twitter at CalSportsLV. Congratulations, Ralph, too, as well. You got a milestone there. You get more and more folks are really enjoying the information you're putting out on Twitter, man. I see your count is growing, my man.
Yeah, and I'm an old shit. I didn't even have my Twitter account 3 years ago. So I'll give a shout out to Johnny Detroit from Wager Talk. So, I came out and again, remember, I came from North Coast and Phil Steele. That's about as old school as it gets. And, have to modernize a little bit being in Vegas.
Yeah, you do. You got to get with it. But the trends and the angles, they don't change. So give us some of your trends and angles here for today's action.
Again, a very limited card. So we want to have a few fun angles. And I'm going to say this for the next few weeks. Remember, when I'm giving you trends and angles, 90% of those numbers were from a different season. So you have to take them with a grain of salt. What you want to do is try to say, well, do we have the same coaching staff? Do we have the same type team? Are we playing the same style? Well, Alabama's 2-10 ATS, their last 12 overall, including 0-1 this year. They're off a loss. We're going to be talking about them more in a minute. And they're also 5-15 over under their last 20. Now, I will say they did go over their one game this year. So they were 4-15. You might be able to say they're 1-0 over under. Again, time will tell. And Yale, another game we'll talk about. Yale just 5-18 against the spread as an away dog, taking the long trip to play San Francisco tonight.
Interesting. Well, we take a look also at the numbers here, Ralph, and I do believe there's a couple of games going to get early on, or one game at least early on here today. But we're looking at the numbers from a number perspective, Ralph. We got a couple of games. The top 3 games being bet right now is right in my backyard. One of them, Florida Atlantic taking on Alabama, 8 o'clock tonight. Right now, it looks like folks are all over Alabama. 79% of the tickets, 94% of the money. That number is hovering around 12.5 for Alabama. Also, Drake in Cincinnati, another big one. And this has got an interesting discrepancy, Ralph. You've got 51% of the tickets on Drake representing 86% of the money, while Cincinnati's got 49% of the tickets and only 14% of the money. They're laying 11 right now, Cincinnati at home over Drake there. And one final one that the ticket count continues to go up here, Kent State and Townsend tonight. 56% of the tickets, 89% of the money on Townsend, laying 2.5 in this one, Mark. Ralph?
Yeah, and let's look at some of the line moves from the morning. Vandy opened up at 14.5. They are now laying 17.5. Mm-hmm. And you talked about that FAU Alabama game. And I mentioned them as an angle. They went over the one game they played, scoring 161 points in the Penn game. That game opened at 147.5. It's been bet up to 156, even some 156.5. Mm-hmm. So a 9-point move on the total. And remember this. The people firing away on a Monday early, still morning in Vegas, early afternoon, are traditionally the people that know what they're talking about, have studied the game. You're not firing away on those kind of totals. So, while I am not one at all in football to follow line moves, In college basketball, it's usually not a bad idea. I know I have some customers that fire away at games and can move lines, but that's one thing I would tell our viewers, that keep an eye on the line moves, start tracking them, and you might find some success early in the college basketball season.
Yep. Also, another big total move here, of course. Yale taking on San Francisco tonight. Opened up at 149. I'm seeing a bunch of 143.5s, 144 across the board here. So you've got kind of a 5-point swing there in the total. That's tonight. Yale taking on San Francisco. And as far as the weekend goes, Ralph, or the first 5 days here, talk to me about some of the things here that you've learned, some of the upsets. What did you take away from the first week of college hoops?
Well, the biggest upsets we've seen 4 of them from dogs of 15 or more. And, the interesting thing is, again, this is week 1. Vegas is studying just like we are, so these numbers could be off. But Merrimack beating Northwestern was a surprise to me. Merrimack's a team that just is moving up, is now moving up from a D2 team. San Jose State beating Hofstra, not that big of a surprise. Riverside against Nebraska, I'm beating myself. I had that one circled as a potential play on the opener. Riverside was a very poor team. Nebraska was one of those teams returning 0 starters. They have the least experience of the 353 teams. What did Riverside do as a 15-point dog? They won that game 66-47. And Idaho State beating Air Force, a team they do play traditionally, taking care of business. So, those are the biggest underdogs that have won the game outright. To start this season right now, dogs 121 and 123, 49.6%. So again, a 50-50 push. But is this the 3-point line getting moved back? Is this just seeing some competition early with the AP 1, 2, 3, 4 and the ACC games playing? Over/under so far year to date, 38.4% to the over. So what's that? 61.6% of all the games have gone under the total. 93 overs, 149 unders, and 3 pushes.
So that's all some good stuff. And guys, make sure that you head over to wagertalk.com. You can get a whole lot of information and a whole lot more there from Ralph's page at Cal Sports on the wagertalk.com website there. Check it out. A lot of free information, of course, at Cal Sports LV on Twitter. And Ralph, one of the things that folks reached out to us and really wanted us to hone in on, or at least point them in the right direction, was some dogs here, moneyline dogs. What have you seen on the card? Again, abbreviated on a Monday night here, but what have you seen? Any dogs sticking out to you?
Joe, I don't see any. Because, basically we are dealing with the mainline games. Mm-hmm. The off-board games, there are people that can play them and have access, but the market's so small that we don't want to talk about those games here on this show. We're just going to be dealing with the mainline games. And, there's only a handful of teams that are a single-digit favorite, and I tend to like those. I guess my favorite dog, do I think they'll pick the upset? No. But it would be Florida Atlantic. It's a team we talked about against Miami of Florida. I thought they could play against them. Miami was coming off the loss in the ACC action, and they were fired up, and they took care of action. But Alabama's a banged-up team. Their loss to Penn was because they have multiple guys hurt. They have 3 or 4 guys out there. Bench is very weak. They have a first-year head coach in Nate Oates. And, I ran this trend as well. So teams that lose game 1 as a home favorite in the college basketball season and are a home favorite in game 2, going back since 2010, so we're now in our 10th season, they've gone 34, 37, and 1, 39.3%. So don't automatically think, Alabama lost as a favorite. They're going to bounce back and crush this team. Well, there's a reason you lost game 1 as a home favorite straight up.
Right.
And more than not, over 61% of the time, the dog has covered in game 2.
Yep. And it's funny, Ralph. And we're looking at some of these spots on the board here, and a couple of these games too. It's just in the last couple of minutes that we have talked, and we've seen some of the money and some of the numbers rocket through. Like Georgia Tech and Elon seems to be a big mover right now, as does DePaul in Iowa. And I don't know what it is about that San Francisco-Yale game, but a lot of people seem to love San Francisco over the last couple of minutes. So it'll be interesting to see. Well, I might have to actually review that game here because I do actually have a thought or two on that game. So we'll keep you posted here before it's all said and done on what's going on there, Ralph. So talk to us. I mean, situationally, revenge spots, something we had talked about that we would often cover here on the show, Ralph. Is there anything that coming to mind here maybe this week? I know yesterday was, Florida and Florida State, where it was one of those games where is Florida ever going to beat Florida State? I don't know. I mean, at this point, Ralph, I doubt it because it's something about Leonard Hamilton and Florida State. Some teams just have other teams' number for some reason.
And I was actually on the Florida side. Yeah. Florida State was coming off a disappointing loss at Pittsburgh. They led wire to wire, and then they had the disappointing loss. They're the only Power 5 team, and I call Power 5 because we all know the conferences I'm referring to. I mean, we need a name in college basketball for the real conferences and the mid-majors. So whatever that is, we'll come up with one, Joe, and we'll start the new phrase. But they were the only Power 5 conference to start the season with 2 true road games. That's another detriment. The Florida State team also were knocked out of their dorms. They had flooding in their dorms. They had to move into a hotel. So, hats off to them for coming up strong. One situation I'm going to look at here is fading Texas A&M tonight. ULM is a team that's deep. They had 10 players score double digits. A&M is another team that's banged up. A&M has Gonzaga on deck on Friday. So when you have a team like that coming in at home into your place on Friday, you're off your home opener, an easy win. You're looking forward to hosting the Zags. This is a Monday game against ULM, but this ULM team is deep, and I certainly lean with the dog.
Love that. And I got to look at this. I'm looking at this Yale game here, Ralph, and Yale is on the road and taking on San Francisco. And it's interesting in this game to me because both of these teams come in undefeated, both 2-0, but I don't know. The competition Yale has taken on in their 2 wins a little bit suspect. They rolled over Oberlin. How many of you guys had that game, huh? Oberlin, after battling to a 5-point win over Stony Brook? Like, come on. San Francisco, however, just annihilated Sonoma State, and they also took down Princeton by double digits in their last game. Listen, Todd Golden took over this team. Kyle Smith's on his way to Washington State. San Francisco's at home here. I don't think that's something that can be overlooked. To me, experience group, advantage over whatever Yale thinks they might be bringing to the table tonight. I actually don't mind laying the 5 points here and backing, and I can see why people are going that way, back in San Francisco and laying the 5 against Yale at home.
We know it's not very often that an Ivy team sends someone to the NBA. Yale only returns 1 starter. Really 2, because they had 2 part-time players who are playing. Maya Oni just signed a contract with the Utah Jazz. So when you lost 4 starters and one of your starters in college basketball in the Ivy League is going to the NBA, you know how big of a loss that is. And Yale is almost like a Princeton-style offense from the past. They're up-tempo, but they're not slow like Princeton, but they pass the ball in lanes and they do a lot of cuts and they do a lot of rotations. And I think that's going to be difficult with all those new starters. And add in, you look at San Francisco and you say, well, I would say that Yale is better than Princeton, right, and San Fran won by 10. But that San Fran game wasn't at home. It was another thing that impressed me. They played where the Warriors played, the brand new arena. So you're a local kid playing in Golden State's arena. You have to be excited. You have to be thrilled. And yet they kept their focus and got the win. So I agree with you with the Don side tonight.
Like that. And, of course, I guess some of these marquee matchups here tonight, Drake, Cincinnati, there's a reason why, I guess, it continues to be one of the highest handled games on the card here tonight. A lot of tickets rolling in. Drake, Cincinnati here tonight.
Again, we're talking a very limited card with this being a matchup, but Cincinnati's another team that's going through some issues. You have a new head coach, Cronin, out in UCLA. We've seen he's learning to play defense. The Northern Kentucky coach, you going from one of the slowest tempo teams. Northern Kentucky was about 180 in tempo last year, so they're learning to speed it up. They by far have the best player on the field in Cumberland. His brother also comes over from University of Oakland to help him out. But he was you could tell he was not conditioned properly in the Ohio State game. He had some injuries in the summer. He couldn't go through his normal conditioning. He's a step slow. They shot the ball poorly. Again, another team that is going to be greatly improved coming down the stretch, but you can't lay double digits favorites with a team like that that's struggling to shoot, albeit very early and albeit on the road in their opener against a very good Ohio State team.
All right, he is Ralph Michaels, guys, wagertalk.com. That's where you can go to check him out. Of course, the Cal Sports page as well as Twitter at CalSportsLV. Make sure you check it out. Plays, packages available. Of course, it is Monday, guys. College hoops. It is underway in case you haven't seen it, Ralph. And, of course, all of the sheets, all of the data stuff you have available at wagertalk.com as well if folks are just starting to get into the college basketball swing.
Well, right now, the only thing available up there, the new coaching sheets where you can learn where the new coaches came from and the preseason guide. There haven't been any updates to the numbers, the returning starters. But listen, we're still early. I probably go through November looking at the preseason guide because it reminds you of where this team came from. How many returning starters did they have last year? Was it the same coach? What was their record? What did they finish RPI-wise? What was their points per game and their rebounds per game diff? What do they return this year? What was their recruiting rank? And then you have the ATS numbers to look at as well as all the other stats. So I will start doing a college basketball guide. That will start taking place probably the first week in December once I get rid of all the college football things I do. But again, I know this is a basketball show, but just a reminder, if you haven't checked out my homepage at Wager Talk, every Sunday I post the Gridiron Guide. It's a full-page matchup for each college football team, stat lines, ATS lines. You're getting stat and yardage logs. I do my college football stat comparing the strength of schedules, the yards per game diff, the points per game diff, the yards per play diff. I give you my power ratings. I do one-page schedules if you want to print off and be old school. It has the circle lines from Sunday so you could check the lines and totals and how they moved. So all that is free. If you haven't gone, you do have to register the first time. You don't need to put in a credit card. And then each week you can go down and download that information for free. And certainly when I start doing the weekly college basketball guide, it is a must. It will be a must read every Monday when you download it.
Bottom line, guys, there's a lot of information to be had, quality information to be had at wagertalk.com, the Cal Sports page. Also on Twitter at CalSportsLV. That is how you reach Ralph. And, of course, don't forget, guys, you are here each and every day. Make sure you like these videos. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you come back and join us for a weekly show here. Everything that is college basketball. It is the happy hour tip-off show. He is Ralph Michaels. I'm Joe Raineri. Good luck to you guys. Ralph, we'll talk again tomorrow. We'll make it a very profitable college basketball season.
Thanks, Joe. Again, guys, an abbreviated show today because of the abbreviated card. Keep tuning in daily. You'll want to make sure you don't not miss a day.
That's right. Get there. Wagertalk.com. Get there today, guys.